What if the real reason you feel overwhelmed isn't your job, your phone, or the world around you, but the way you respond to it all? Think about it. How often do you wake up already stressed, already tense, already preparing for battle with a day that hasn't even started? Your mind races, your chest tightens, and before anything has happened, you're already exhausted. This isn't weakness, it's the weight of living in a world that never stops. But here's the truth no one teaches you. Calm isn't something you stumble upon, it's something you build. And it begins not with changing your life, but with changing how you think. You're not alone in feeling like everything is just too much. The pressure to keep up, to be liked, to succeed, to look like you've got it all together. It's relentless. Every ping from your phone, every headline, every demand pulls at your focus and chips away at your peace. You start reacting, not responding. You get angry faster. You lose patience quicker. You snap. You withdraw. And then you wonder, why can't I just be calm? You can. You just haven't been shown how. Not in a way that makes sense. Not in a way that actually works. That's what this is for. Because buried underneath the noise, under the worry, under the chaos, there's a stillness in you that's been waiting to rise. It's not weak. It's not passive. It's powerful. And it's been inside you all along. You don't need more motivation. You don't need another productivity hack. You need a system for stillness. A mindset that holds steady when everything else shakes. That's what the ancient Stoics mastered, calm in the face of anything. And the best part? You don't need to change who you are to learn it. You just need to remember what you've forgotten, that your mind is yours. This isn't philosophy for the sake of sounding deep. This is a blueprint for mental strength, for emotional clarity, for inner freedom. It's for the moments when life slams the door in your face, when the relationship ends, when the plans fall apart, when nothing makes sense. That's when you need more than good vibes. You need tools, real tools, and that's what you're about to get. Each lesson ahead will challenge how you see things. It will push you, but it will also free you, because once you learn to master your mind, the world can't shake you. You stop being a leaf in the wind. You become the one who decides which way you go. Stay with this. Don't just watch. Feel it. Let it in. Let it strip away the panic and reveal your power. By the end, you won't just understand calm, you'll embody it. This is the beginning of a new chapter in how you live, think, and lead yourself. The calm you've been chasing is already inside you. Now, it's time to claim it. Your life isn't defined by what happens to you. It's defined by how you interpret it. Two people can face the same situation. One breaks, the other builds. The difference? Not strength, not luck. Perception. How you choose to see the moment. Your mind is a lens, and when that lens is cracked by fear, doubt, or ego, everything looks worse than it is. You turn a delay into a disaster, a criticism into an attack, a change into a threat. But here's the truth most people never realize. Perception is not fixed. It's flexible, and you have the power to shape it. That power is your path to peace. There's freedom in realizing that most of what disturbs you isn't real. It's a story. A story you told yourself about what things mean. You lose the job and think you're a failure. Someone ignores your message, and you assume you're not worth their time. You get rejected, and you believe you're not good enough. But those are interpretations, not facts. And once you can separate them, you unlock your calm. You stop being a prisoner of your assumptions. You stop reacting to ghosts. You start responding with clarity. Every time you pause before reacting, you create space. And in that space lives your peace. That split-second gap between what happens and what you decide it means. That's your moment of power. You don't have to spiral. You don't have to explode. You don't have to run. You can stand still, observe, and decide with intention. That's where strength lives. In that space. Not in controlling the world, but in mastering your response to it. Most people never learn this. They live on autopilot, ruled by emotion, pulled by impulse. But not you. Not anymore. Because now you understand that calm doesn't mean nothing affects you. It means nothing controls you. You might feel the emotion, but you don't become it. You might face the chaos, but you don't feed it. You learn to see clearly. And when you see clearly, you act wisely. That's why perception is everything. When your mind is clear, your path becomes clear. You stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. You stop fighting battles that were never yours. You stop letting small things steal your inner stillness. The world doesn't change, but you do. You begin to move differently, speak differently, think differently, not because you've become numb, but because you've become conscious, awake, steady, unshakable. You already have this ability. You've just been too distracted to notice, too conditioned to react. But now, every time something happens, you'll remember, it's not the event. It's the meaning, and the meaning is yours to choose. That choice is your superpower. That choice is your calm. And from that calm, everything changes. Not someday, not when life finally slows down. Right now, the moment you shift how you see, you shift how you live. And when your perception changes, your world follows. Peace begins the moment you stop wasting energy on what you can't control. That's the dividing line between a restless mind and a resilient one. Most of what keeps you up at night lies outside your reach. What people think of you, how others behave, the choices they make, the outcomes you can't force. But you were never meant to carry all of it. The more you try to control the uncontrollable, the more powerless you feel. And the more powerless you feel, the louder your mind becomes. Fear grows. Frustration builds. Calm disappears. But there is a way out, a simple, powerful shift. Focus only on what is yours, your thoughts, your choices, your actions. That's your domain. That's your ground. Everything beyond it is a distraction, dressed as duty. You don't control how people respond. You don't control timing. You don't control results. You only control the effort, the intention, the mindset you bring. And when you return to that truth, when you stop grabbing what was never yours to hold, you find space to breathe again. You find freedom, and in that freedom, calm rises. This isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of illusions. You don't make the sun rise. You don't command the tide. You can't force someone to love you, to understand you, to change, but you can choose who you become in the process. You can choose your integrity when it would be easier to fold. You can choose stillness when everything screams for reaction. You can choose to respond with power, not panic. That's real control. That's the kind that lasts. When your energy is wasted trying to bend the outside world, you shrink inside. You become reactive, fragile, easily shaken. But when you take that energy back and invest it in mastering your own choices, everything shifts. You become someone the world can't throw off balance. You're not numb. You're in command. You're not avoiding. You're accepting. Acceptance isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's the strength to say, this moment may be out of my hands, but I will not let it take my peace. You've done it before, even if you didn't realize it. In moments when chaos swirled and you stayed calm, when things didn't go your way and you still rose with grace. That strength is not rare. It's you, remembering what matters. It's you, stepping back into ownership of your mind. Every time you face a storm, you have two options. Resist what you can't control and suffer, or focus on what you can and stay steady. One path leads to more anxiety, the other leads to peace. Now is your time to choose, not by changing the world, but by changing your focus. Let the noise pass. Let the outside spin. Your calm is not out there. It's in your clarity, in your choices, in your decision to control what's yours and release what's not. That's where power lives. That's where peace begins. And that's where you return, over and over, when the world gets loud. There is a deeper kind of strength that most people never learn to access. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet, steady and undeniable. It's the strength of embracing everything life throws at you, not with bitterness, but with acceptance, not with resistance, but with resolve. This is the mindset that turns pain into power and adversity into alignment. When you stop fighting the moment and start working with it, you unlock a part of yourself that cannot be broken. You begin to see that life is not against you. Life is shaping you. And every challenge is an invitation to rise. You don't get to choose what happens, but you do get to choose how you relate to it. You can curse your fate, or you can cooperate with it. You can complain, or you can adapt. You can resist the fire, or you can let it forge you into someone stronger, wiser, and more grounded. The peace you want doesn't come from everything going your way. It comes from learning to love the way things are, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. That's not denial. That's discipline. That's what it means to live with true emotional freedom. When you stop wishing the moment was different, you begin to experience its full depth. And inside every difficult moment, there is something worth finding. Growth, clarity, strength, patience. If you run from it, you miss the lesson. But when you stand still and face it, even the hardest moment becomes your teacher. That's the mindset of calm. It's not about everything being easy. It's about knowing that no matter what comes, you will meet it with grace. Let life be what it is. Don't shrink from it. Don't argue with it. Face it. Own it. Move with it. Everything you're avoiding is showing you where your growth lives. The discomfort, the uncertainty, the fear. These are not your enemies. They are invitations to go deeper, to find out what you're really made of. Because the truth is, you're not fragile. You've survived more than you give yourself credit for, and you will rise again. Not because things got easier, but because you got better at facing them. Loving your fate doesn't mean loving every moment. It means loving who you become because of every moment. It means trusting that life is not random, that there is value in the valley, not just the mountaintop. That's how calm is built. Through challenge, through choice, through the courage to embrace your reality, even when it's not what you hoped for. And when you do, you stop waiting for life to cooperate. You start becoming the person who cooperates with life, and wins anyway. This is your power, to meet whatever comes not with fear, but with fire. Not with resistance, but with readiness. Let life shape you. Let it teach you. Let it sharpen you. You're not here to avoid the storm. You're here to become the calm inside it. You don't have forever. And that truth isn't meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. One day, there will be no more chances, no more time to fix, to forgive, to start, to change. Everything you're putting off will be left undone. Every dream you're postponing will vanish with you. You weren't made to live like you have endless days ahead. You were made to live like each moment is sacred because it is. When you remember that your time is limited, you stop wasting it. You stop feeding fear. You stop waiting for permission. You begin. Nothing quiets the chaos like the sharp edge of mortality. It cuts through distraction. It removes the noise. It strips life down to what matters. You stop worrying about opinions that don't matter. You stop playing roles you never chose. You stop chasing validation from people who don't even know themselves. Death doesn't take your power. It gives you clarity. When you accept the inevitable, you stop fearing it. And what's left behind is a new kind of freedom. Not reckless, but purposeful. Not anxious, but awake. You start treating your days like they're priceless because they are. You don't scroll them away. You don't complain them away. You don't give them to things that drain you, or people who belittle you. You start protecting your energy like it's sacred. You begin to ask deeper questions. Who do I want to be when this ends? What legacy am I living, not just leaving? How much of my life reflects what I value most? These are the questions that create a calm mind, because they strip away everything shallow and pull you into alignment. A person who remembers their mortality doesn't chase chaos. They move with intention. They listen more. They speak with weight. They show up with presence. And that presence is powerful, because it's rare. While the world runs from the thought of death, you use it. You let it clarify your choices. You let it fuel your discipline. You let it remind you that now is all you have, and that is more than enough. That realization burns away fear, and what's left is gratitude. Deep, raw, untouchable gratitude. You've been given today. That means your mission isn't over. That means there's still something for you to do, someone to become. Don't drift. Don't numb out. Don't sleepwalk through a life that's slipping by. You are not promised tomorrow, but you are holding now. And now is the only place peace can live. Now is where calm breathes. Now is where courage grows. When you live with the end in mind, you stop being afraid to start. This is your reminder. Not to be scared of death, but to be inspired by it. To let it sharpen your focus. To let it strip away the unnecessary. And to help you rise, not someday, not later, not when it's easier, but now. Because now is all there ever really is. Comfort is not the goal. Strength is, and the two rarely grow in the same place. If you want to build an unshakable mind, you must be willing to do hard things, not because you have to, but because you choose to. Because you know what's on the other side of discomfort isn't pain, it's power. The kind that doesn't need outside approval. The kind that isn't dependent on circumstances. The kind that stays calm in the fire, because it was forged there. Most people avoid difficulty, but avoidance builds anxiety. Facing it builds resilience, and resilience is the root of peace. There's something liberating about choosing to make your life harder than it needs to be, on purpose, sleeping without a pillow, going without your favorite food, turning off distractions and sitting with silence, not because you're trying to suffer, but because you're proving something to yourself, that your comfort doesn't own you, that you're not controlled by cravings, habits, or moods. You're building mental armor, discipline, clarity. The more you stretch your limits voluntarily, the less the world can take from you. You stop being so afraid of loss because you've trained yourself to stand without what others depend on. You don't build calm by avoiding challenge. You build it by walking straight into discomfort and saying, I can handle this, I've prepared for this. That kind of calm doesn't break. It doesn't panic. It doesn't need to escape. It stays. It faces. It endures. And the only way to gain that strength is through repetition, by choosing small discomforts each day, until your mind adapts and your fear fades. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once felt threatening becomes ordinary. Your nervous system learns not to overreact. Your thoughts become clear. Your emotions stop driving your decisions, and you reclaim your power. Too many people wait until life forces them into hard things before they test themselves. But by then, it's too late. Panic takes over. Chaos wins. You want to be ready before the storm. That means training when it's easy, so you can remain grounded when it's not. Your routine becomes your rehearsal. Your habits become your protection. You stop hoping for comfort and start preparing for reality, and that preparation builds a different kind of confidence. The quiet kind, the steady kind, the kind that doesn't need to talk. It just shows up and handles it. This isn't about punishing yourself. It's about freeing yourself from dependence, from weakness, from the illusion that you need perfect conditions to stay calm. You don't. What you need is exposure. What you need is control over your response to discomfort. And the more you face it, the more control you gain. The more control you gain, the more peace you feel. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. Because you've stopped running from the hard things. And you've started becoming the kind of person who walks through them without losing who they are. Most people fear what might go wrong. But the truth is, fear grows in the absence of preparation. The mind fills empty space with worst-case scenarios because it hasn't rehearsed how to stay calm. You can't stop uncertainty from showing up, but you can train yourself to meet it with clarity instead of chaos. You can prepare your mind the same way you train your body, by simulating pressure in advance, by walking through potential setbacks mentally before they arrive physically. This isn't negativity, it's wisdom. It's a calm mind saying, I've already seen this, and I'm ready. Imagining adversity before it comes doesn't make you anxious, it makes you strong. It removes the shock. It gives your nervous system a reference point. When you've already visualized failure, rejection, loss, or challenge, your mind stops seeing it as a threat. It becomes familiar. Familiarity breeds calm. You're not caught off guard. You're not scrambling for control. You've already walked the path in your head, so when it appears in front of you, you don't collapse. You move, you respond, you adapt. This is mental conditioning at its highest level, not waiting for life to hit you, but choosing to walk through it before it does. When you stop avoiding negative possibilities, they lose their grip on you. You take their power away. You see them not as signs of doom, but as stepping stones to strength. That mindset transforms fear into focus. It gives you room to breathe even when things go wrong. You stop panicking. You stop reacting emotionally. You think clearly, act decisively, and stay rooted. That's what separates the overwhelmed from the grounded, the ones who expect ease, and the ones who prepare for resistance. Every time you mentally rehearse a setback, you're building trust in yourself. Not blind optimism, but earned confidence. The kind that says, no matter what happens, I can handle it. That's the foundation of calm. It doesn't come from hoping everything goes your way. It comes from knowing you'll stay steady even if nothing does. You don't rely on luck. You rely on inner readiness. That's real control. That's real freedom. This practice doesn't harden you. It liberates you. It breaks the illusion that you need constant comfort to be okay. It teaches you that uncertainty is not the enemy. Avoidance is. And once you stop avoiding the thought of things going wrong, you start realizing how capable you actually are. You stop fearing life's curveballs because you've already played them out. Your emotional system doesn't shut down. Your focus sharpens, and your peace deepens. That's the level you're building. Not someone who survives chaos, but someone who's immune to it. Not because nothing happens, but because you're no longer shaken by what might. You're grounded in what is. You've trained for difficulty. You've imagined it. You've welcomed it. And now, you walk into each day not needing certainty. Just the quiet confidence of someone who's ready for anything. Every obstacle you face is not blocking your path. It is the path. The world will never run out of problems, but you can run out of excuses. The moment you stop seeing hardship as punishment and start seeing it as preparation, your entire life begins to shift. Struggle sharpens you. Resistance strengthens you. And the things you once thought were in your way turn out to be the exact things that shape you into who you were meant to become. You don't grow when everything is easy. You grow when you're challenged, when you're stretched, when life forces you to dig deeper than you ever thought you could. There will be moments when everything feels like it's working against you. Progress slows, motivation fades, doors close. But those are the moments that matter most, because they test what's real. Anyone can be calm when life is calm. But can you stay grounded when everything shakes? Can you keep showing up when nothing seems to be working? That's where strength is revealed. That's where calm becomes more than a mood. It becomes a mindset. one that says, I don't need easy, I just need direction. Every obstacle is a mirror. It shows you who you are and who you're becoming. If you avoid it, you stay the same. If you face it, you evolve. What once made you doubt yourself becomes the very thing that builds your confidence. What once made you feel weak now becomes your training ground. Life isn't testing you to break you, it's calling you to rise. And the ones who answer that call, the ones who lean into the struggle instead of away from it, discover that peace doesn't mean the absence of pressure. It means the presence of purpose. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment. You don't need all the answers. You just need to take the next step through whatever's standing in front of you. Growth doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like failure. But if you keep moving, if you keep learning, if you keep choosing courage over comfort, you will come out stronger. Not in spite of the obstacle, but because of it. That's how calm is built. That's how resilience is earned. That's how greatness is forged, not in smooth conditions, but in the fire of resistance. When you start to welcome the obstacle, you stop fearing it. You stop dreading adversity and start extracting value from it. You begin to trust that whatever shows up in your life is part of your path, not a detour from it. You find power in the challenge, purpose in the process, peace in the pressure, because you know, deep down, nothing is working against you. It's all working on you. Every moment is shaping you. And when you accept that, when you lean in with clarity and intention, you no longer need the world to cooperate. You become the one who transforms whatever comes. You are not your emotions, you are the observer of them. And the moment you remember that, you take your power back. Emotions come in waves, rising, crashing, then fading. But you are not the wave, you are the ocean, steady, deep, unmoved by surface storms. Most people drown in their feelings because they believe they are their feelings. They get angry and say, I am angry. But that's not true. You are feeling anger. And feelings are temporary. They pass, but only if you let them. If you cling, if you feed them with thought, they grow into something heavier than they were ever meant to be. That weight becomes suffering. Not because the emotion was too much, but because you never step back from it. Calm begins when you create space between stimulus and reaction, when you feel the rush of frustration or fear, but you pause instead of explode. That pause is power. That pause is ownership. And that pause is something you can train. You are not a slave to your triggers. You don't have to collapse every time you're overwhelmed. You can feel without being controlled. You can experience without being consumed. That's the practice. Let the emotion arise. Notice it, name it, and let it move through you like a visitor, not a ruler. There is no strength in suppressing emotion. Real strength is staying fully present with what you feel and choosing not to lose yourself in it. Your emotions are data, not commands. They tell you something is off, but they don't get to decide your response. You do. That separation is everything. That's where calm lives, in the space between feeling and action. The world will try to provoke you. People will test you. Life will shake you. But when you no longer need to react to every impulse, you become unshakable. You can feel deeply and still stay grounded. You can be in pain and still stay present. You can be angry and still speak with control. That's not denial, that's mastery. It's not about being cold, it's about being conscious. Emotions aren't enemies, they're signals. And when you learn to listen without letting them drive, you become someone who responds with wisdom instead of reaction. That's where clarity grows. That's where peace takes root. You've already felt what it's like to be pulled by your emotions, to be trapped in the cycle of overthinking, snapping, regretting. But now you're stepping into a higher state, one where you rise above the wave and choose how you show up, one where your identity isn't tied to your moods, and your value isn't determined by how you feel in the moment. You are the one watching, the one deciding, the one choosing, and in that choice, again and again, you build the kind of calm that nothing can take from you, not because life gets quieter, but because you do. A cluttered mind cannot be calm. When thoughts are scattered, emotions follow. When your attention is hijacked, your peace is stolen. You were not designed to carry 1,000 thoughts at once. You were not built to constantly absorb, react, and respond. But that's what happens when you never stop to process. When you rush through days without reflection, your inner world becomes noisy. Your mind spins. Your decisions blur. And instead of living with intention, you begin living in reaction. But there is a simple discipline that brings everything back into focus: writing, not for others, not for perfection, but for truth, for clarity, for peace. Putting your thoughts on paper forces your mind to slow down. It removes the fog. It separates what matters from what doesn't. It takes all the noise inside you and organizes it into something you can understand. That understanding is power. Because once you can see your thoughts clearly, you can lead them, you can change them, you can choose them. Calm doesn't live in a mind that avoids itself. It lives in the mind that is willing to face itself, to listen, to question, to reflect. You can't solve what you refuse to examine. Most of your stress isn't coming from the outside world. It's coming from the stories you've repeated in your own head. Stories about failure. Stories about not being enough. Stories about fear, pressure, time. But when you write them down, they lose their grip. What felt like chaos becomes manageable. What felt overwhelming becomes a single sentence. That sentence becomes a choice, and that choice becomes the beginning of control. Every day you are building your mindset, whether consciously or not. When you journal, you take the process into your own hands. You decide what to keep. You decide what to release. You don't need to write pages. You don't need perfect words. You just need honesty. One quiet moment where you ask yourself what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and whether it's leading you where you want to go. That small pause creates awareness. That awareness creates change. Most people carry their thoughts like weight they never set down. You don't have to live like that. You don't have to be buried beneath the mental clutter. You have the power to clear it. You have the power to shape it. But you must slow down long enough to hear yourself, to know yourself, to understand the inner dialogue shaping your life. Once you do, you no longer follow your thoughts. You direct them. That's how calm is created. Not by escaping your mind, but by entering it with clarity. Not by silencing your thoughts, but by organizing them. Not by wishing for peace, but by making space for it. One word at a time, one thought at a time. Until the noise fades, and all that remains is a mind you trust, a mind that listens, a mind that leads. Where your attention goes, your life follows. Focus is not just a mental skill, it's an emotional discipline. What you give your energy to, you amplify. What you allow into your mind, you allow into your world. Most people feel scattered not because life is too busy, but because they've never learned to protect their attention. They say yes to everything. They absorb every notification. They get pulled in every direction, and then wonder why peace feels so far away. But peace isn't found in doing more. It's found in choosing less, and choosing with intention. Every moment you spend comparing, scrolling, reacting to noise, you're giving pieces of yourself away. Attention is not infinite, it's a currency. And the more carelessly you spend it, the more bankrupt you become. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You weren't meant to track 1,000 lives. You weren't meant to carry the world's opinions. You were meant to live yours, fully and deeply, from the inside out. But to do that, you have to become ruthless about what you allow in. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves your time. You don't need to explain. You just need to decide. Saying no is not selfish. It's sacred. It's how you carve out the space where calm can live. Because without space, you're just reacting. You're not thinking. You're surviving. And surviving is not the same as living. You weren't born to be distracted. You were born to be present, to be clear, to be awake in your own life. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you become aware of where your focus is being stolen, and take it back. The mind will always search for stimulation when it hasn't been taught stillness. That's why you have to train it, discipline it, not with force, but with boundaries. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do what matters, and do it fully, without being pulled in 100 directions. Depth over noise, presence over pressure, clarity over chaos. That's the mindset of calm, not scattered, not chasing. Just locked in on what aligns with your values, your goals, your truth. This kind of focus gives you power, because when you're no longer distracted by what doesn't matter, you have energy for what does. You become more creative, more decisive, more grounded. You start doing fewer things, but with more heart, more presence, more peace. That's how you rise, not by speeding up, but by slowing down with intention, by cutting away the unnecessary so the essential can breathe. You are not obligated to consume every thought, every message, every demand. You are allowed to protect your mind. You are allowed to filter your focus. That's not avoidance. That's leadership. That's strength. That's how you reclaim the energy to live on purpose. And once you do, the noise fades. The chaos quiets. And what remains is focus, pure, powerful, and finally yours. If you can control your breath, you can control your state. When everything feels overwhelming, when your thoughts race and your body tightens, the first step is not to think harder. It's to breathe deeper. Calm begins in the body. Before the mind can quiet down, the nervous system must feel safe, and nothing signals safety more powerfully than the breath. It's the one tool always within reach, yet so often overlooked. You don't need anything outside of yourself. You just need to return to what's already yours. The rhythm of your breath is the rhythm of your power. When you slow your breathing, your heart rate follows. Your body begins to loosen its grip. Your mind opens. Suddenly, the problems that felt heavy start to feel manageable. The emotions that felt like storms begin to pass. This isn't magic. It's biology. The body doesn't lie. And when you learn how to regulate it, you stop being at the mercy of panic, fear, or pressure. You start leading yourself out of reaction and into clarity. You train yourself to respond instead of explode. You create distance between stimulus and reaction, which is where your freedom lives. Every calm person you admire has learned one thing: not everything requires a response. Some moments only require awareness, the ability to observe without immediately acting, to feel discomfort without trying to escape it. That level of control isn't cold, it's powerful, because in the pause you gain perspective. You regain choice, and in that choice you reclaim peace. You become someone who doesn't fall apart when things go wrong. You become someone who holds steady, because you've trained yourself to go inward instead of outward. The breath anchors you. When the world spins, it holds you in place. When the noise rises, it brings you back to center. That center is your power, not your circumstances, not your reputation, not your timeline. Just this moment, fully felt, fully owned, fully present. And when you learn to drop into it, on command, you become unshakable. Not because life is easy, but because you no longer resist it. You move with it, you adapt, you endure. You do it without losing yourself. Stress thrives in resistance. The more you fight the moment, the more tension grows. But when you soften your breath, you soften your grip. You stop trying to force outcomes. You stop needing control. And instead, you begin to trust your ability to meet the moment as it is. That trust changes everything. It brings peace into the center of chaos. It gives you power in the places you once felt powerless. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to come back to your breath, again and again, until it becomes your first instinct, not your last resort. That's what calm is. Not absence of pressure, but mastery of presence. Not silence around you, but stillness within you. And it all begins with a single, conscious breath. There is strength in stillness that most people never tap into, not because it's hidden, but because it's unfamiliar. We've been trained to believe that movement equals progress, that noise means momentum, that busy is important. But chaos is not clarity, distraction is not direction, and constant motion without intention is the fastest path to burnout. When you learn to be still, not just physically but mentally, you start to see what others miss. You begin to hear your own voice underneath the noise, and in that quiet you find your power, not the kind that needs to be seen, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself to exist. Stillness is not inaction. It is composed, deliberate energy. It's the space between impulse and execution, between thought and reaction. It's where you collect yourself, where you come home to your center. The world will always push you to move faster, respond quicker, chase more. But there is no wisdom in rushing. There is no peace in panic. When you move too fast, you miss the truth. But in stillness, truth becomes clear. What matters rises. What's noise falls away. The mind stops spinning and starts seeing. Stillness is not something you find. It's something you create. It's a discipline, not a gift. You create it by saying no to what drains you. You create it by choosing focus over frenzy. You create it by realizing that you don't need to chase every thought, react to every feeling, or solve every problem right now. Some things become clear only when you stop trying to force them. Some answers emerge only when you get quiet enough to hear them. And when you do, clarity arrives. Quietly, powerfully, without needing explanation. People mistake silence for weakness, but it's the opposite. It takes courage to be still in a world addicted to noise. It takes inner strength to pause when the pressure says go. But when you master that pause, you rise above chaos. You operate from intention, not reaction. You stop leaking energy into things that don't deserve it. You move with focus, not fear. And that's where calm is born, not in escaping life, but in standing fully present within it. The most powerful moves are often invisible. The most powerful people often appear the calmest, not because they lack emotion, but because they have learned to master it. Stillness isn't the absence of feeling. It's the ability to feel deeply without being driven by every emotion that rises. It's how you stay grounded when the ground beneath you shifts. It's how you listen before you speak, decide before you act, lead before you follow the crowd. You don't need to move faster. You need to move truer. Stillness gives you that truth. It brings you back to who you are before the world told you to be someone else. And from that place, you make choices not out of fear, but from clarity, not to impress, but to align. Stillness isn't passive, it's presence, fully claimed. Not everything that disturbs you is worthy of your energy. Not every storm deserves a reaction. Some chaos exists only because it knows you'll respond, because it feeds on your attention, your anxiety, your emotional investment. But here's the truth. You don't have to attend every conflict you're invited to. You don't have to answer every doubt, defend every choice, or explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Calm is not a weakness. It is the highest form of strength, because it means you've chosen control over chaos, peace over provocation, and purpose over pride. When you stay calm, you break the pattern. You refuse to dance with the same negativity that's trying to pull you in. You rise above what was designed to pull you down, and in that rise, you reclaim your time, your clarity, your direction. Calm is not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It's the decision to pause before reacting, to question before accepting, to reflect before responding. And in that space, you hold power that most people never access, because most people are chasing noise, proving points, winning arguments that don't even matter in the long run. But you're choosing something greater. You're choosing mastery. The world will test you. People will challenge you. Life will throw distractions dressed as urgency. And every one of those moments will ask you a question. Will you be controlled, or will you lead yourself? Will you let outside triggers shape your inner peace, or will you be the one who stays grounded, no matter what shakes around you? That decision, made over and over again, becomes your power. The more you practice calm, the more unshakable you become. The more you step back from emotional storms, the clearer your vision becomes. And with clarity comes direction. With direction comes purpose. With purpose comes power. No one can steal your peace unless you hand it to them. No one can shake your calm unless you allow it. And when you realize that, you stop giving your energy away so easily. You stop explaining yourself where explanation is wasted. You stop trying to win people who don't even understand your mission. Calm gives you that filter. It teaches you to see clearly what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It teaches you to walk away without resentment, to observe without attachment, to engage with strength, not insecurity. The most powerful transformation begins when you stop reacting and start responding, when you stop proving and start building, when you stop chasing approval and start standing in truth. Calm is not passive, it's intentional. It's the shield that protects your progress. It's the armor that keeps your focus intact. And it's a daily choice, one moment at a time, one breath at a time, choosing not to fight every battle, not because you're afraid, but because you know exactly where you're going, and nothing is worth slowing that down. Let others burn out trying to be loud. You build power in silence. You keep calm. You move forward, relentless, focused, unshaken. There's a quiet kind of discipline that doesn't shout, doesn't boast, and doesn't need validation. It lives in your choices, not your words. It shows up in how you carry yourself when no one is watching, in how you choose to hold your ground when everything around you is shifting, in how you wake up each day and decide to be steady, even when your mind tries to pull you into chaos. That discipline, that inner structure, is what keeps your calm alive. Because the truth is, you don't rise by accident. You rise on purpose. Calm isn't something you stumble into. It's something you build, and you build it every time you do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Every time you breathe instead of breaking. Every time you pause instead of pushing back. Every time you hold your peace instead of giving in to temporary emotion. That kind of strength doesn't come from the outside. It doesn't come from inspiration or motivation. It comes from identity, from choosing again and again who you are, no matter what the world throws at you. The calm you're chasing isn't out there. It's inside you, waiting to be claimed. But that means taking full responsibility for how you show up. You can't control every situation, but you can always control your mindset, and your mindset shapes your entire life. It colors how you see the world, how you respond to pressure, how you interpret challenge. If you let the external dictate your internal, you will always be reactive, always chasing stability, always waiting for peace instead of becoming it. But if you choose to lead yourself from within, you become unmovable, and in that stillness, your power multiplies. Because when you're calm, you're not distracted, you're not overwhelmed, you're not easily manipulated. You see through noise, you stay focused on what matters, and that focus allows you to move with precision. Most people waste years reacting to things that don't matter. They fight battles that drain them. They chase opinions, fears, and expectations that were never theirs to carry. You're not here to live like that. You're here to rise above it, to simplify, to focus, to build something lasting. And that starts with self-command. Every time you choose calm, you're rewriting the pattern. You're teaching your nervous system that safety doesn't come from control, it comes from trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in your process. Trust in your ability to rise even when it's hard. This isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about staying solid when it's not. It's about moving forward anyway. Calm is the fuel for long-term growth, the foundation of mental strength, the quiet fire that keeps you going when others quit. You don't need to be louder than the noise. You just need to be more rooted than the storm. And you are, because you've chosen it. Not once, but again, and again, and again. You don't have to react to everything. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to carry every weight that gets thrown at you. Not every fight is worth your energy, and not every opinion deserves your attention. True calm begins when you stop trying to control what's beyond your reach, and focus instead on mastering what's always within you. Your breath, your choices, your focus, your values. That's where your power lives. That's where resilience is born, not in the noise of the world, but in the stillness of your inner clarity. The mind wants to protect you by anticipating threats. It spins stories, triggers emotions, and projects outcomes that may never happen. And if you're not aware of that pattern, you start to live in defense. You begin reacting to shadows. You start assuming the worst. You become consumed by what-ifs and hypotheticals. But when you recognize the mind's noise for what it is, just noise, you create distance, you gain control. You choose not to be pulled into every storm. That's not weakness, that's wisdom, that's strength, the kind of strength that doesn't scream but stands. To stay calm under pressure, you have to separate stimulus from response. That split-second space between what happens and how you respond is where your entire future can change. That space is your power. In that space, you choose awareness over reaction, intention over impulse, wisdom over chaos. Most people never access that space because they live in autopilot, but you can. You can slow down. You can become aware. And once you do, you no longer live at the mercy of circumstances. You live by choice, by design. That's how peace is built, not through silence around you, but through strength within you. It doesn't mean you're unaffected. It means you're undisturbed. You feel the emotion, but it doesn't control you. You recognize the chaos, but it doesn't consume you. You acknowledge the pressure, but it doesn't shake you. Because you know who you are. You know what matters. And you've decided that nothing is worth your inner stability. You don't chase calm. You become it. You breathe it. You live it. And each time you do, you reinforce a deeper truth. Your emotions are real, but they're not always right. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean you're in danger. Just because you feel anger doesn't mean you need to act on it. Emotions are messengers, not masters. You listen to them, but you don't obey them blindly. That is how you rise. That is how you build unshakable control, by feeling everything but choosing what deserves a response. And the more you train this skill, the more unbreakable you become. Chaos will still come, but it won't own you. Discomfort will visit, but it won't define you. And pressure may rise, but so will you. Always. Because you're not here to react to life, you're here to rise through it. Calm, clear, focused, and free. The real transformation begins when you stop waiting for the world to calm down and decide to anchor yourself in peace no matter how loud it gets. It's not about controlling the storm outside. It's about mastering the storm within. Every time you react with chaos, you give your power away. Every time you lash out, panic, or collapse under pressure, you reinforce the lie that the outside world dictates your inner world. But that's not true. It never was. You are not here to be ruled by circumstance. You are here to meet life with grounded strength, to become so rooted in who you are that no gust of fear or wave of doubt can uproot your presence. There is nothing more powerful than a person who chooses to stay calm when everything around them is fighting to pull them out of alignment. It's not because they're numb or indifferent. It's because they've trained their mind to pause before it spirals, to breathe before it breaks, to remember before it reacts. Calmness is not a passive state. It's an active decision. It's discipline. It's control. And it's available to you at every moment, whether you realize it or not. But you must claim it. You must own it. You must practice it, especially when it's hardest to do so. Your life will not always give you easy moments. It will test you. It will shake you. It will confront you with uncertainty and doubt and discomfort, not to break you, but to reveal to you who you truly are beneath all the noise. When everything is stripped away, when nothing is certain, when pressure is high, when outcomes are unknown, that's when your core is exposed. That's when the work shows. That's when the truth rises. you'll discover that the chaos outside is a mirror, not a master. It shows you what's unresolved within. It invites you to strengthen what's weak, to calm what's anxious, to guide what's reactive back into conscious power. So when fear whispers that you're not enough, respond with stillness. When doubt creeps in, answer with clarity. When the world demands urgency, choose deliberate presence. Because your worth is not measured by how fast you move or how loud you respond. It's measured by how deeply you remain aligned with what matters when everything tempts you to drift. That is the essence of inner mastery, and it is not reserved for the few. It is earned by the consistent. It is developed by those who are willing to train their nervous system to stay grounded when everything screams to run. Every deep breath you take, every pause you create, every response you refine, builds that foundation. And brick by brick, choice by choice, breath by breath, you become unshakable, not because life is easy, but because you've chosen to be powerful, even when it's not. That is your edge. That is your strength. That is how you rise.